Hey lady, welcome to the Postpartum on Purpose podcast. If we haven't met, my name is Anne Marie. I'm wife to James and mom to 5 beautiful kids, ages 9 down to 2 months, with 1 miscarried baby. It is my hope to help other women experience postpartum as a time of grit, growth, and grace. This is episode 63. Hi lady, happy Wednesday. Let's start off, per the usual, with free things. Up first, my sister gave me some kombucha that she brewed herself. That was for kombucha, for what it is. It was delicious. It's almost gone now. That was the first thing. Second thing was one of our Grandma Tribe member ladies bought makeup recently, and she got the free gift bag that goes with it if you spend over a certain amount from Clinique. I got one of the products, I'm keeping it, and the others are going into my contribution to a fall fashion or item exchange as part of a ladies' night out that I'm hosting this weekend. So I'm looking forward to being able to put that into the pot, so to speak. And when I say that, I'm picturing, if you remember, the Lindsay Lohan Parent Trap, where they're all playing poker and they're dumping all the stuff on the piles. So they're coins, but then there's scrunchies and nail polish, and I can't remember what else. Anyhow, that's what I'm picturing when I say I'm putting it in the pot. Another thing that was free was, and this was a little bit ago, but I don't think I said it when I actually received it in the mail. But I got an AccuView gift card, just like a MasterCard gift card from AccuView because I mailed in the rebate form. And I believe I did it all online from my contacts. I got contacts a couple months ago. And if you, depending on what product you get a certain amount on a gift card back, a MasterCard gift card, if you fill out the rebate form. I got $50 back, which given that the price of contacts went up $90 from 2 years ago when I last bought them, okay, but still $50 is better than no bucks. So that's going into the free things account this week. And then the last thing was that we were invited this morning by a friend of mine to a pumpkin patch that was paid for. Admission was paid for today only by the mom's group that she's in. And that was just a really kind gift because otherwise that would have cost our family $40 on a weekday, $50 on a weekend to go and have the same amount of fun. And everybody had a great time. That, I think, wraps up free things. There's another little feature I thought of adding, perhaps, at least for now. Maybe not forever, but at least for now. And it's the idea of one small change. I have talked about in the past, with this current postpartum that I'm in, about the troubles that I've had with Cecilia and needing a lactation consultant, which is going to be the focus of today. But as part of the one small change aspect of things, there was time and energy and effort and attention that I did not have for other things because that was one of my top priorities, getting things figured out with her feeding, making sure she was on a good trajectory with her weight and so on. But we are now past that. We've moved past that stage. And so that has allowed and freed up some mental energy and time for other things. And what that's looked like in the last week, just over a week in particular, has been recognizing the importance of movement, not just exercise, as in press play on my Nourish, Move, Love YouTube channel video, and 30 minutes later, I'm done, press pause or press stop or X out of it. But this idea that I need to move my body more for all sorts of benefits, mental, physical, emotional, and so on. Letting go of this top priority of getting things figured out with feeding has opened up the space to say, all right, how can we move today? But also my family and my children, because we spend so much time together throughout the day. And what that has looked like has been for, I think 6 out of 7 nights in a row, and not now for the last 3 nights or so, but last week in particular, when it was so hot here. It's like 95 degrees in September. And it was so hot, and I would walk up with the kids to the splash pad. Splash pad's less than a mile from our house. It was not an aggressive walk. It was slow, but I pushed the double stroller and then had Cecilia in the carrier. I was wearing her, essentially baby carrier, and that was plenty. I'm really trying to learn more about and lean into this idea of movement in a way that's not stressful to the body. And I had gone to a festival, the Morton Pumpkin Festival, if you've ever been or heard of it. Morton, Illinois is the pumpkin capital of the world, and that's where Libby's, the pumpkin canning company, is located. That's their headquarters. But I had gone to the annual festival with my best friend, and we were walking somewhere, and she's said something to the effect of, could you walk in a way that is regulating your nervous system? Essentially, don't walk like you're on fire if you're not. And that really resonated with me. I really appreciated that she pointed that out to me in a way that I could laugh at, but also take some note of. All right. The one small change then was the shift from the top priority, one of my top priorities being focusing on Cecilia's feeding, and now shifting to how can we get more movement into our day. All right. Onward to my first ever lactation consultant appointment. And that's the focus of this episode, but I'm going to briefly basically just say like what happened in the very first visit and then what happened in the 3 visits after that. And for now, we are done seeing the lactation consultant. We might pick back up as a one-time thing in about a month from now just to track her progress in that time. But until this postpartum, I had never seen a lactation consultant before. I had not needed to do that. I know plenty of women who have, and I know there are all sorts of different types of problems you can have: tongue ties, lip ties, supply issues, latching issues, and so on. But it had not been part of my experience, my personal experience. That all changed this time around. And I have had previous episodes, several guest hosted by IBCLCs, International Board Certified Lactation Consultants. Jackie Ordner has done 2 for us, and then Jamie Zaki has done 1 for me as well. She did the one on virtual lactation care if you go back through the old episodes. And then Jackie has done 2 for me. One was on setting yourself up for breastfeeding success. That one was about 30 episodes ago now, I think, kind of a while back. And then more recently than that, she did one about how to afford a lactation consultant. That has been something that has held me back in the past. Not that I ever really needed one, but has held me back from just seeing one to glean what kind of knowledge I could. You know how I feel about the free things, right? So cost has held me back from ever really exploring that in any meaningful way. But this time, the cost was not an issue for several reasons. One, the lactation consultant that I found, and by found, I mean I found her through Google, she is part of what's called the Lactation Network. And I think this is really cool and something that's increasingly becoming popular in different niche areas where you have somebody who's on their own, for instance, a counselor, and by that I mean like a therapist counselor who might be part of a network that handles all of the insurance stuff for them. But then this IBCLC does something similar. So she has her own practice that's just her private practice, but she is a member or pays or whatever to have somebody else handle all of the insurance stuff for her. So she is an IBCLC who contracts with the Lactation Network, and they will check your insurance coverage. Mine covered all of it. I think it would have been free or close to free, but it was for sure free because, as I've said before, I've hit, thanks to Cecilia's birth, both the deductible and my out-of-pocket max. So it cost me absolutely nothing for her to come to me. But when I was just starting to look around, I knew that I wanted to work with somebody who took insurance for this reason, because I knew it would be free to me, even if under other circumstances it would not be because of the deductible and so on. Okay, so I Googled, I found this lady, I contacted her, reached out, and sent my insurance information. The Lactation Network looked up that and confirmed my coverage. Then she and I set up an appointment, and she came to my house, which was wonderful. And I do believe that's pretty standard for lactation consultants, generally speaking. She said if I had wanted, she has a home office that I could have gone to, but she prefers to go to women in their home environment to see what the situation is for them where they are usually feeding their baby. That was great. I have talked before about the value of having people come into the home, like a postpartum doula or a direct primary care doctor, if you're so fortunate as to be working with one. They will usually do a couple of newborn visits. So it's not the postpartum visit for the mom, but it's a newborn visit that also at the same time is assessing the mother's health as well in these various ways. But I love the idea of somebody coming to the mother instead of the mother having to pack up everybody or get childcare, etc., and then go somewhere else. All right. The very first appointment that I had with the lactation consultant, she came. She brought this big case with her, and it had a scale in it. We weighed the baby. How did we do this? I'm always trying to remember when we have clothes and we don't have clothes as far as weighing the baby. But the idea was to get the baby naked, to get her weight, the weight that was just her, not the weight of her clothes, not the weight of her diaper, and so on. And then you feed the baby. And as you're feeding the baby, she is assessing the baby's latch and how it looks, also listening to see how the baby is whether the baby's gulping air, which in Cecilia's case, that was a very obvious thing. That was why I contacted her, because she was gulping and gulping air. And then often she would puke up an entire feeding, and it was just very frustrating and difficult. And she wasn't gaining weight the way that we needed her to. I should be clear. She was on the low end of normal weight gain, the very lowest end. All right. So the lactation consultant weighed her, I fed her, and then we weighed her again. And the point of that was to see how much milk she had transferred in that one feeding. Every subsequent visit after that, you do the same type of weighing thing, but then you have your baseline from that first visit to say, okay, when we started out, this is how heavy the baby was, this is how much she transferred, and then we also weigh her with her diaper on to see how much she was peeing out and pooping as well, because inevitably she was peeing and pooping too. It's part of the whole visit. All of that got wrapped in, and it was really nice to be able to see from 1 week to the next what type of weight gain she had. And I want to be clear about something, because this was surprising to me, and I don't want it to be a surprise to you if you find yourself working with a lactation consultant. Even though I thought the first appointment had gone well, and not as in I thought and I was disillusioned, but I thought that it had gone well. The next visit, my daughter still had marginal weight gain. Part of what needed to happen was time. We needed more time to implement the things that the lactation consultant said, and they included positioning. For the next 6 weeks minimum after that visit, I was laying almost completely backwards, as reclined as possible, to account for the fact that I have this very strong letdown that my daughter was having a hard time managing. I was popping her off, trying to, but it was still just difficult. Some of the things the lactation consultant said were the positioning thing. That was one thing. A second thing she said was always making sure that I was feeding on both sides. I can't remember if I did this with the first 4 kids or for some reason, if I just did it funkily this time, but I had just been feeding her on one side for one feeding and the other side for the next feeding. After several weeks, my milk supply regulated somewhat. I still have a strong letdown, but that letdown did decrease a little bit. My daughter became more able to handle it with feeding on both sides. In the very first week, though, of making that change, it wasn't enough time yet, is what I found. That's what I learned over time. It just wasn't enough time to get those effects. I felt discouraged when my second appointment rolled around and she had not had this great weight gain that I was expecting her to have, because I had made the changes. And then the third change was that I had started to take a probiotic. I mentioned it a while ago, but I got antibiotics this time before Cecilia was born while I was in labor with her, because I was GBS positive. I had never taken antibiotics with any of the previous kids. The lactation consultant and I talked about. It occurred to me, in God's good grace, it occurred to me the night before my first appointment, oh, I wonder if that had an effect on my gut. I knew that it had an effect on my gut because it kills both the good and the bad bacteria, and we know that. That's what antibiotics do. But I wasn't sure how that might have affected my milk and or the seeding of her microbiome, which is impacted in a vaginal birth, is impacted with from the flora and fauna of the mom's vaginal biome, not just the gut microbiome, but the flora and fauna the baby comes into contact with as she or he is being born. That obviously, because I got all these antibiotics, that changed. So the seeding that would have gone on, the vaginal seeding that occurs that then impacts her gut microbiome, so from my vaginal microbiome to her gut microbiome, all of that would have shifted because of the antibiotics that I took. And I asked the lactation consultant, could that be playing a role in why she's gulping air, she's not managing she's had a lot of mucus in her stools, just things were not quite right from what I remembered with the other kids. And she said, yes, she thought that could make a difference. And I had meant to take a probiotic as soon as I got home from the hospital. I meant to, and then I didn't. I didn't. I forgot. I didn't do it. At her recommendation, I went and got them 2 hours after my very first meeting. I was going into town anyway, and I got that first probiotic. Again, just 1 week was not enough time to see change there. But after the third visit, or at the third visit, Cecilia had great weight gain. We had 2 full weeks since that first appointment passed. of implementing the suggestions that the lactation consultant had made. And I really appreciated that she did not get nitpicky with me about things that didn't actually matter. She could have looked at me and said, well, you need to shift your, like she could have been perfectionistic about the way that Cecilia was latching, for instance. But she was very good at targeting what actually needed to change instead of looking at it and me as if she were grading me like a performance or like I was taking a test or something. It was really just what are the most important things that will move the needle to help Cecilia, this particular situation, help her feed better, instead of looking at it and saying, well, you're not doing this quite right and you could do this a little better. The consultant really zeroed in on what will be the most helpful. Let's make changes in those places. Total, we had 4 appointments and that was what it took. But honestly, at that third appointment, as soon as I heard that my daughter had gained so much weight, everything shifted. All of the pressure, all of the paying attention to pees and poops, and is she eating enough? And oh my goodness, how long has it been since she puked last? Which I don't even know how long it's been because I actually completely let go of that number. Completely let go of that number. She hasn't puked in a very long time, but I actually don't remember anymore how long it's been, which is such a gift. But when I heard that she had gained 10 ounces in 1 week, which is really great weight gain, it was like something slid off of my back. I did not realize it was quite as bothersome to me as it was. And I was doing my best to keep it in check, right? I was doing my best to keep things in perspective. But when I heard that number, everything just went, and has not come back as a problem since then. We had one more appointment after that, just to make sure that she was, so to speak, on the straight and narrow. And she was. And then I told the lactation consultant, let's maybe check in a month, have you come back. You might be wondering, okay, well, what length of time should I expect for an appointment? We met once a week for 4 weeks, and the length of time that she planned on was an hour. The first visit was right about an hour, and she did ask me things like, what are your previous births like? What was this birth like? So she asked me what I was experiencing in addition to the fact that she observed the feeding, and then we did the ways of the baby. I want to mention that as well. We did do the narrative portion of things where she asked me what my thoughts were and so on. But about once a week we met. She had offered, this is something for you to know as well, she had offered that if I wanted to meet every 5 days, for instance, or if I wanted her to come twice a week even, we could do that. But because Cecilia was never unwell, she never looked unwell, it was just that she wasn't gaining as much weight as we wanted her to, that was not really a necessary thing for us. But I appreciated that it could have happened if I had needed it to. And I could see where that would be very helpful if, for instance, she had been losing weight as opposed to just not gaining as much as we would like. I'm trying to think if there are other questions you might have about lactation consultants in a first-time meeting. I will say it was really neat, just confirmation that this was a good lady, because it turned out that a friend of mine had also worked with this lactation consultant when she was employed by a local hospital. During COVID, that hospital cut their lactation staff, and this lady was let go and then moved into private practice. But I learned that she had helped a friend of mine right after birth with some latching issues that her son was having. That was just a nice confirmation. And the last thing I was just going to say was a friend of mine has the perspective. She has had 7 living children now, I believe. She's had a couple miscarriages, but I think she has 7 living children. She told me that she now plans automatically, routinely, to see a lactation consultant after every baby. I thought that was really interesting. Myself personally, I wouldn't say that I see a need for that or see the value of that at present, but I did want to put that out there because I am that passionate about everybody seeing a pelvic floor physical therapist after they are, when they are during postpartum. And I just wonder if the more that I learn, if that will also be something that I will do as an automatic, just at least one visit postpartum, have a lactation consultant come in the future as well, particularly if insurance is going to work with it. If there are other questions you have, will you just let me know? My lactation consultant is hopefully going to record a guest episode soon about a topic I hadn't even heard of until recently. I knew you would take a breastfeeding course before the baby was born, but she also recommends seeing one-on-one a lactation consultant before a baby comes. I'm very curious on all the details of that. I hope you have the best week, just the best week. And one thing can I ask of you? If you've not already reviewed and rated the podcast, would you do that, please? Because it actually makes a difference, in particular if you're listening through Apple Podcasts. It makes a real difference in the algorithm to who it gets pushed out to. If you're willing to take the time to do that, I would be so grateful. Talk to you later.